Today, we are looking at the South African 1 Rand, dated 2000, specifically the version featuring the old coat of arms. This is an especially interesting coin because 2000 was a transitional period in South African coinage, and collectors can encounter both an old coat of arms version and a newer design from the same year. That means the date alone is not enough. You need to look at the actual design on your coin. The 2001 Rand with the old coat of arms is catalogued as KM number 164. It belongs to the circulation coinage of South Africa and is associated with the period when Thabo Mbeki was president. The coin is made from nickel-plated copper and has a weight of approximately 4 grams and a diameter of about 20 millimeters. But those numbers are only the beginning of the story. One of the most interesting features is the springbok design. The springbok has long been one of the most recognizable symbols associated with South African coinage, and collectors often pay close attention to how clearly the animal is struck. Take your coin and look carefully at the springbok. Do the finer details remain visible? Can you clearly see the body, legs, horns, and surrounding lettering? Or has years of circulation worn the surface smooth? This is where condition becomes extremely important. A coin that has spent 20 or more years moving through pockets, cash registers, drawers, and everyday transactions can develop scratches, marks, discoloration, and areas of heavy wear. Another coin from exactly the same year may have been protected almost immediately after leaving the mint. To an ordinary person, both coins may simply look like 1 Rand coins. To a collector, they can be very different. Now turn the coin over and examine the coat of arms. This is one of the most important things to check on the 2000 issue. The old coat of arms variety is different from the new coat of arms version. Collectors who specialize in South African coinage know that identifying the correct variety is essential before trying to determine a coin's value. So if you have several 1 Rand coins from around this period, do not simply put them all into one pile. Separate them. Look at the date. Look at the coat of arms. Compare the designs carefully. You may discover that you have more than one variety. And there is another important lesson here. Never assume that an older-looking coin is automatically rare. Age is only one part of collecting. Mintage, variety, condition, demand, errors, provenance, and authenticity can all influence what a collector may be willing to pay. In fact, this particular 2000 old coat of arms, 1 Rand, is reported with a mintage of around 35 million pieces. That is a substantial number, so the coin should not automatically be described as an extremely rare coin simply because it carries the year 2000. But that does not make it uninteresting. Far from it. For collectors, coins from periods of design transition can be fascinating because they document a change in the country's circulating currency. And that is something many people overlook. When you hold this coin, you are not simply holding a piece of metal. You are holding a small object connected to a particular moment in South African history. Think about where these coins may have traveled. A 1 Rand coin from 2000 could have been used in a shop, carried in a pocket, placed inside a purse, saved in a jar, or forgotten in an old drawer. It could have crossed hands thousands of times before eventually finding its way into a collection. That history is part of the appeal. Now let's talk about condition. If your coin is heavily worn, do not be surprised if its collector value is modest. If the coin has attractive original surfaces, strong details, and very little circulation wear, it becomes much more interesting to collectors. And if you believe you have an unusual error or variety, do not clean the coin. This is extremely important. Do not polish it. Do not use chemicals. Do not scrub it with a cloth trying to make it shine. Cleaning can permanently damage the original surface and can actually make a collectible coin less desirable. Instead, handle it carefully by the edges and examine it under good lighting. A magnifying glass can also help. Look around the date. Look at the lettering. Look at the coat of arms. Look at the springbok. Look along the edge. You are searching for anything that looks genuinely unusual rather than simply damaged from circulation. And remember, damage and mint errors are not the same thing. A scratch caused by years inside a pocket is usually just damage. A genuine minting error is something completely different and may attract much greater collector attention if it can be authenticated. This is why experienced collectors do not rush to put a huge price on a coin simply because something looks strange. They investigate first. They compare examples. They check references. And
before we begin, take a second and subscribe to this channel. If you appreciate history, real value, and the kind of knowledge most people walk past without ever noticing, you're in the right place. Subscribing now means you won't miss stories like this one, stories hiding in plain sight. Now imagine this. A coin sits quietly in a drawer. It's been there for years, maybe decades. It doesn't shine. It doesn't beg for attention. It doesn't look like treasure. Yet it carries weight far beyond metal. This is not a story about loose change. This is a story about overlooked power, patience, and time. The year is 1992. South Africa stands at the edge of historic change. The world is watching. Economies are shifting. Old systems are fading. New ones preparing to rise. And in the middle of that moment, a 50-cent coin is struck. Small denomination. Everyday use. Passed from hand to hand without a second thought. Most people spent it. Some dropped it. Very few kept it. This coin was made for daily life. Groceries. Transport. Small purchases that seem insignificant now. But coins are witnesses. They travel through pockets and palms, through good years and hard ones. They see eras come and go while remaining unchanged themselves. The South Africa 50-cent 1992 coin carries more than its face value. It carries a snapshot of a country in transition. For collectors who understand history, that alone matters. But history is only part of the equation. What makes this coin stand out is not just when it was made, but how few survived in the condition collectors now demand. Time is brutal to coins. They scratch. They fade. They corrode. The majority of these coins were worn down by everyday use. Only a small number escaped circulation untouched, and among those, even fewer carry the exact characteristics that serious collectors look for. Precision in striking, sharp detail, balanced weight, clean surfaces. These details separate common coins from extraordinary ones that the untrained eye. One 50-cent coin looks like another. To a trained collector, differences jump out immediately. Tiny marks, alignment, the way light reflects off the surface. These are not trivial details. They are the difference between a coin worth face value and a coin worth life-changing money. Older collectors understand this better than anyone. They grew up in a time when quality mattered, when tools were built to last, when craftsmanship was respected. Coins from that era reflect the same philosophy. They were not made to impress. They were made to function. That's why finding one in pristine condition today is so rare. There is also something deeply personal about coin collecting, especially for men who've lived through decades of change. Coins are tangible. You can hold them. They don't disappear in a market crash or vanish with a password. They sit in your hand, solid and real. Many men in their later years are drawn to objects that tell a story without making noise. A coin does exactly that. It doesn't shout. It waits. The 1992 South African 50-cent coin is one of those pieces that waited. It waited while the world rushed forward. It waited while technology exploded. It waited while attention shifted elsewhere. And now, quietly, it has stepped into the spotlight. Collectors across the world have begun to reevaluate coins from transitional periods. Coins struck during political and economic turning points often gain interest because they represent the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. 1992 was such a moment for South Africa What's fascinating is how many of these coins may still exist in homes, boxes, or old collections, unrecognized. A man cleaning out a drawer, a family sorting belongings, a forgotten envelope. History doesn't always sit in museums. Sometimes it's in your house, and value does not always announce itself early. Many of today's most valuable collectibles were once ignored. People laughed at them, spent them, threw them away. Only later did the world realize what had been lost. That's why this story matters. Not to create hype, but to remind you that knowledge changes perspective. Once you know what to look for, the ordinary becomes extraordinary. Condition matters. Provenance matters. Rarity within a common issue matters. And patience matters most of all. For men who've lived long enough to see trends come and go, this makes sense. True value is not fast. It grows quietly. It waits for the right moment. The South Africa 50 cents 1992 coin represents that lesson perfectly. A small object from a pivotal year, overlooked by millions, preserved by a few, and now sought after by those who understand its significance. If you've ever held on to something because it felt important, even when others didn't see it, you already understand why this coin matters. And now, here's the part most people wait for. The number that turns curiosity into attention. In the highest known collector condition. With the right characteristics, proper verification, and strong market demand. This South Africa 50 cents 1992 coin has been associated with values reaching up to $500,000. Before we begin, take 1 second, hit the subscribe button, and stay with me, because by the end of this video you may look at loose change in a completely different way. Picture this. A quiet afternoon. A drawer that hasn't been opened in years. Old keys, faded receipts, and a handful of forgotten coins. Most people would sweep them aside without a thought. But men who have lived long enough know better. History often hides in the smallest places. And today, we are talking about a coin that looks ordinary, feels ordinary, yet carries a story powerful enough to stop collectors, historians, and investors in their tracks. The South African 50 cents coin from 1993.1993 was not just another year. It was a turning point for South Africa, a moment when the country stood between an old world and a new one. The air was thick with uncertainty, hope, tension, and transformation. Coins minted during such years are never just money. They are witnesses. They pass through hands that lived through change, struggle, and resilience. This 50 cents coin was struck during that exact moment, making it far more than spare change. Hold it in your hand, and you feel weight, not just in metal, but in meaning. The design reflects authority, structure, and national identity at a time when identity itself was being redefined. For many men watching this, you remember those years clearly. You remember reading newspapers, listening to the radio, watching the world shift. This coin was there too, quietly circulating while history unfolded. What makes this coin truly fascinating is not just when it was made, but how few people paid attention to it back then. It was used, spent, dropped into pockets, forgotten in jars. No one treated it like treasure. And that is exactly how rare things are born. The most valuable collectibles are often the ones nobody thought to save. Collectors today search for specific details on this coin. The sharpness of the strike, the depth of the engraving, the edge, the metal consistency. Coins from 1993 that survived without heavy wear are incredibly difficult to find. Many were melted, damaged, or lost over time. Those that remain in exceptional condition have become almost mythical in collector circles. For men in the 55 to 65 age range, this story resonates deeply. You understand patience. You understand long games. You understand that real value often takes decades to reveal itself. This coin is a perfect symbol of that truth. It waited quietly while the world rushed forward. There are stories of collectors who ignored this coin for years, only to later realize what they had once held in their hands. There are stories of inheritance boxes opened after decades, where this exact coin sat untouched, preserved by chance. And there are stories of experts pausing mid-sentence when they see a pristine 1993 50 cents from South Africa, knowing immediately that they are looking at something special. This coin represents survival. It survived economic shifts, political transformation, and the simple human habit of spending without thinking. Each year that passes makes it rarer. Each collector who locks one away makes the remaining examples more valuable. Scarcity is not created overnight. It is created slowly, silently, over time. What separates seasoned men from impulsive ones is the ability to recognize quiet power. Loud things fade quickly. Quiet things endure. This coin does not shout. It waits. And waiting has paid off. Imagine the journey. From a mint in 1993 into circulation through countless hands across decades. Every scratch avoided, every careful storage, every moment of luck added to its story. That journey is what collectors pay for. Not just the metal, but the survival against odds. Now, here is where the story becomes truly electrifying. In elite collecting circles, where private sales happen behind closed doors and values are discussed in whispers, this coin has entered a different category altogether. Not as currency, not even just as a collectible, but as a historical artifact with extreme scarcity and top condition. And this brings us to the part you've been waiting for. The value. According to high-end collector speculation and legendary private deal discussions, a flawless South African 50 cents coin from 1993, with exceptional preservation and verified authenticity, has been spoken of in terms that most people would never believe. Not thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but a staggering $5 million. Before we begin, take a second to subscribe to this channel, because the stories we share here are not just about coins. They are about history, legacy, and the kind of hidden value most people walk past every day. If you enjoy rare finds, forgotten treasures, and the possibility that something small can carry enormous worth, subscribing now makes sure you never miss what could change the way you look at money forever. Now imagine holding a single coin in your hand. It feels ordinary. It weighs almost nothing. It fits easily in your pocket. You may have received it as change, tossed it into a drawer, or left it behind without a second thought. But what if that coin was silently carrying a story powerful enough to span decades, cross borders, and shock collectors around the world? Today we are talking about the South Africa 50 cents coin dated 1996, a piece that most people underestimate. And that is exactly why it deserves your full attention. For many men who grew up handling real coins instead of digital numbers on a screen, coins represent more than currency. They represent work, independence, and history. In the 1990s, South Africa was going through a period of transformation. A new political era, economic shifts, and a redefinition of national identity were all unfolding at once. Coins minted during this time were not just tools for buying bread or fuel. They were symbols of change, stability, and continuity in a world that felt uncertain. The 1996 50 cents coin was part of everyday life. It circulated quietly, passed from hand to hand, from shopkeeper to customer, from father to son. Its design reflected the authority and tradition of the nation's minting history. Yet it belonged to a time when South Africa was redefining itself on the global stage. That alone gives this coin historical weight. But history is only the first layer of its story. What truly captures attention is how certain coins from ordinary years become extraordinary due to details most people never notice. A small variation in strike quality, a limited production run, a minting anomaly that slipped past inspection. These are the kinds of details that separate a common coin from a legendary one. And for collectors who have spent decades studying coins, it is these small differences that can transform a simple 50 cents piece into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Men who have lived long enough know that value is often hidden in plain sight. It is not always announced. It does not always shine. Sometimes it waits patiently for the right person to recognize it. The 1996 50 cents coin from South Africa fits that idea perfectly. To the untrained eye, it looks like just another coin from the 90s. To the trained eye, It represents a specific moment in minting history that cannot be repeated. Collectors pay attention to condition, rarity, and story. A coin that survived circulation without heavy wear already stands apart. A coin that was preserved, forgotten in a drawer, or stored away decades ago becomes even more interesting. Add to that the global demand for rare African coinage, and suddenly this small piece of metal is no longer small at all. There is also a powerful emotional connection at play, especially for older men. Coins like this remind them of a time when money felt real, when saving meant putting something physical aside, when value could be held, weighed, and passed down. The idea that something so familiar could later be recognized as extraordinary creates a deep sense of curiosity and pride. Over the years, whispers among collectors have turned into serious conversations. Certain examples of the 1996 50-cent coin have been linked to exceptional rarity due to unique characteristics known only to experienced experts. These are not coins you find in every collection. They are coins that spark debate, research, and intense interest whenever they appear. Imagine attending a private viewing. A small group of seasoned collectors stands silently as a single coin is examined under bright light. No one rushes. No one speaks loudly, because everyone in the room understands they are looking at something special, something that has outlived its original purpose and entered a completely different world, a world where history, scarcity, and demand collide. For many viewers watching this, there is a quiet question forming in the back of the mind. Could I have one? Did I once hold it? Is it still somewhere in my possession? That question is powerful. It keeps people searching drawers, boxes, old wallets, and inherited collections. Not because of greed, but because of possibility. Coins like the 1996 South Africa 50 cents teach an important lesson. Never underestimate what you already have. Time has a way of changing the meaning of objects. What was once ordinary can become extraordinary simply by surviving, by being overlooked, by waiting. And now, let us come to the part that everyone waits for, the number that transforms curiosity into disbelief. Among elite collectors, private discussions, and legendary valuations, the most exceptional and rare example of the 1996 South Africa 50 cents coin has been spoken of with a figure that seems impossible to most people. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because the coin we're about to discuss might already be sitting in your drawer, your old toolbox, or tucked away in a forgotten jar in the garage. If you're between 55 and 65 or older, especially if you grew up handling real metal coins that had weight and meaning, this story is going to hit home. Today we're talking about the 1965 1-cent coin from South Africa, the English version. At first glance, it looks like nothing special. A small bronze coin, simple design, modest face value, just 1 cent. Many men have handled it without thinking twice. It passed through markets, farms, petrol stations, and corner shops. It may have even jingled in your pocket decades ago. But here's the truth. Some of these coins are no longer worth just 1 cent. In fact, under the right conditions, they can be worth a life-changing amount. Let's step back to 1965. South Africa was going through significant political and economic shifts. Currency was more than just money. It was identity. The 1-cent coin from that year carries historical weight. The English version features the country name written in English rather than Afrikaans, and that small detail matters deeply to collectors. On one side, you'll find the image of Jan van Riebeeck, a figure tied to South Africa's early colonial history. On the other side, the denomination and the year 1965 are clearly stamped. Now here's where things get interesting. Not all 1965 1-cent coins are equal. Most were mass-produced and heavily circulated. Those coins show wear, scratches, fading details, discoloration. These are common, but a very small number were struck with exceptional sharpness, preserved in almost flawless condition, or contain rare minting variations that only experienced collectors recognize. Collectors, especially serious male collectors in the 55 to 65 plus age group, understand something younger generations often overlook. Condition is everything. A coin that has survived 6 decades without heavy wear is extremely rare. We're talking about coins that were either stored away immediately after minting or preserved carefully over the years. There are specific features experts look for: strong, clear lettering, sharp edges on the portrait, no smoothing on the high points of the design, original bronze luster still visible, and most importantly, the English inscription version combined with top-tier preservation. Some rare pieces may even show subtle minting errors, slight off-center strikes, double impressions, or metal composition irregularities. These mistakes were not intentional, but in the world of numismatics, mistakes can mean money. Serious money. Men who have been collecting for decades understand the thrill of discovering value in something overlooked. It's not just about profit. It's about history, patience, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing you held onto something others dismissed. That 1965 1-cent coin may have been handed to you as change when petrol cost just a fraction of what it does today. Back then, nobody imagined it could someday become highly desirable. The coin market has changed dramatically over the years. As more collectors enter retirement age, they begin investing in tangible assets. Coins are not just metal, they are history you can hold. Unlike paper money, bronze coins from that era have survived in limited high-grade quantities. Many were lost, damaged, melted, or simply worn beyond collectible condition. Another factor driving demand is nostalgia. Men in their late 50s, 60s, and beyond often seek items that connect them to their youth. The 1965 1-cent coin represents a different era, a time of mechanical precision, simpler economies, and physical currency that felt solid in the hand. That emotional connection fuels demand in auctions and private sales. Now let's talk numbers in practical terms. In average circulated condition, the 1965 1-cent coin may still be worth only a modest amount, a few dollars, sometimes less. But that's not what we're focusing on. We're talking about the rare examples, the coins that were never mishandled, the coins that still show full detail, the coins that have been professionally graded and authenticated. Professional grading can dramatically increase value. When a coin receives a high-grade rating from a respected grading authority, collectors gain confidence. Confidence drives bidding, and bidding drives prices higher. Over the past several years, rare South African coins from the 1960s have gained serious attention in the global market. And here's what most people don't realize. As older collections come onto the market, often when estates are settled, rare coins resurface. When two determined collectors both want the same coin, price becomes secondary. Pride, competition, and the desire to complete a collection take over. Imagine finding one of these coins in near-perfect condition. Imagine sending it for grading. Imagine the anticipation as the grade is revealed. And then imagine the bidding beginning. It has happened before. Collectors who once paid pocket change for a coin later discovered it had become one of the rarest surviving high-grade examples. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary can be microscopic. A sharper line, a cleaner surface, a slightly richer bronze tone. That if you are watching this and you have old coin jars, inherited collections, or coins stored away from decades ago, now is the time to take a closer look. Do not clean the coin. Do not polish it. Cleaning can destroy value instantly. Keep it exactly as it is. Handle it carefully by the edges. Store it safely.
Subscribe now and stay with me, because stories like this are disappearing fast. And once you hear the end, you'll understand why collectors all over the world are still talking about this coin. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the year 1969. The sound of a radio in the background, newspapers folded under an arm, hard work, discipline, and pride in earning every cent. Money meant something then. Coins were not just metal, they were proof of effort, responsibility, and survival. In that very year, in South Africa, a small copper-colored coin entered circulation quietly. No celebration. No announcement. Just a simple 1-cent coin, English legend, passing from hand to hand, pocket to pocket, unnoticed by almost everyone. Most people spent it without a second thought. Children dropped it on dusty roads. Shopkeepers stacked it in wooden drawers. Workers carried it home after long days, never imagining that decades later, men would sit back in their chairs, lean forward, and feel their pulse rise just hearing its name. This 1-cent coin from 1969 is not powerful because of its size. It is powerful because of what it represents. A nation in transition. An era when coins were struck with care, weight, and meaning. The design was simple, honest, and firm, just like the generation that used it. No flashy tricks. No distractions. Just solid metal and clear purpose. Now think about this. How many coins have passed through your hands in your lifetime? Thousands? Tens of thousands? How many did you truly look at? How many did you keep? That's where the story turns. Because history does not reward the careless. It rewards the ones who pause, who observe, who preserve. The 1969 South African 1-center coin was produced during a time when minting standards were changing. Materials, pressure, alignment, and die preparation all mattered. A tiny variation, invisible to the untrained eye, could change everything. Most of these coins lived ordinary lives and disappeared into time. But a very small number were different. Struck just slightly off. Pressed just a bit stronger. Preserved just a bit better. Collectors today don't see just copper. They see survival. They see rarity created not by intention, but by circumstance. And for men who understand craftsmanship, legacy, and patience, this coin speaks louder than gold jewelry or modern paper money ever could. Picture a man in his late 60s opening an old tin box. Inside are tools, buttons, maybe a watch that no longer ticks. At the bottom, a handful of old coins wrapped in cloth. That moment of discovery, that quiet breath, that realization that something small has endured longer than many promises ever did. That is where the power of this coin lives. This is not about luck. This is about understanding time. About knowing that the world changes, but certain objects carry their value forward, waiting for the right eyes. The 1-cent 1969 coin is one of those objects. It survived inflation. It survived modernization. It survived being forgotten. Men who lived through the 60s know what endurance means. They know what it means to build something slowly, to protect it, to pass it on. That's why this coin resonates so deeply with that generation. It is a mirror of their own journey. Collectors today search for condition, strike quality, and history. They search for coins that were never cleaned, never damaged, never mistreated. They search for pieces that still carry the original strength they were born with. And when one of these 1969 1-cent coins appears in exceptional form, hearts beat faster, voices lower, and negotiations become serious. Because here is the truth many people don't realize. The value of a coin is not decided by its face value. It is decided by rarity, demand, and story. And this coin has all three. It comes from a meaningful year. It comes from a respected minting period. And it comes from an era that will never return. Every year, fewer of these coins remain in top condition. Every year, more collectors enter the market. And every year, the distance between ordinary examples and extraordinary ones grows wider. That gap is where legends are born. Some men invest in land. Some in machines. Some in memories. But a few understand that history itself can be held in the palm of your hand. Silent. Heavy. Patient. Now stay with me, because this is the moment you've been waiting for. When experts talk about the most exceptional preserved examples of the 1969 South African 1-center coin, the conversation changes completely. We are no longer talking about cents. We are talking about record-breaking private sales, locked vaults, and collectors who never speak publicly. In the highest circles of elite numismatics, one such extraordinary specimen, with unmatched preservation and unique mint characteristics, has been associated with a value reaching as high as $22 million. Yes, a 1-cent coin. From 1969. Worth $22 million.
Before we begin, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon so you never miss a story that might just change the way you look at those old coins lying in your drawers. Because today, we're diving deep into a small piece of bronze that carries the weight of history, memory, and an unbelievable fortune. Now, close your eyes for a moment and imagine it's 1967. The world is changing. Radios crackle with the news of revolutions. The hum of new cars fills the air, and somewhere in South Africa, a minting press strikes a coin. Small, humble, but destined to become something extraordinary. It's just 1 cent, tiny, brown, and often overlooked. But this particular 1967 1-cent coin, holds a story that many collectors would give anything to possess. Picture that coin. On one side, the elegant portrait of Jan van Riebeeck, the Dutch colonial figure whose image once symbolized South Africa's history. The engraving is sharp, the letters South Africa, Suid-Afrika, split between 2 languages, English and Afrikaans, a sign of the nation's dual heritage. And then, on the reverse, the graceful image of a pair of Cape sparrows, small birds resting on a branch, symbolizing simplicity and the everyday beauty of life in the Southern Hemisphere. At first glance, it's just a coin. A cent that might have bought a few sweets from the corner shop or been handed over for a newspaper. Yet, behind that small coin lies the spirit of a generation. For men who grew up in those years, coins weren't just currency. They were tokens of a world that moved slower, when hard work, pride, and craftsmanship mattered most. You didn't swipe cards or tap phones. You carried real money. You felt the weight of it. And this coin, struck in bronze, holds that same kind of honest weight. Now, here's where the story takes a turn. Not every 1967 1-cent coin is just another piece of pocket change. Somewhere, in the mints of Pretoria, a few special coins were struck differently. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe it was intentional. But a handful of coins came out with an extraordinary level of perfection. Flawless surfaces, razor-sharp details, and a mint luster that time couldn't dull. Collectors call these proof strikes, or mint errors, and over the decades, they've become the stuff of legend. Some say only a few of these coins survived. Others whisper that one in particular carries a marking mistake that makes it one of a kind. For decades, it was forgotten, tossed into jars, drawers, and boxes, waiting for someone with the right eye to rediscover it. Imagine that, a treasure worth millions, sitting quietly in someone's old tin of coins, gathering dust. You see, for collectors, the 1967 1-cent coin represents more than metal. It's a symbol of a nation's transition, from the British Commonwealth to an independent identity, from colonial pasts to modern ambitions. It's the kind of coin that tells stories without needing words. When you hold it, you feel time slow down. You feel connection to history, to craftsmanship, to your own memories of simpler times. Think back to when coins had meaning. You'd jingle them in your pocket, counting out each cent. You might have even given one just like this to a young child, showing them how money works, teaching them about value, not just price. Today, we swipe and forget. But coins like the 1967 1-cent remind us of what value used to mean: effort, patience, and pride. Now, as decades passed, collectors began noticing something unusual. The 1967 1-cent coin, especially the English version, started gaining attention at auctions. At first, it fetched a few hundred, then a few thousand. The demand wasn't just from South Africa, but from collectors across the globe who wanted a piece of this post-colonial rarity. They saw it as a bridge between eras, a coin that marked the last breath of the old world before the new one arrived. Experts examined it closely. They noted how the edges were struck, the precision of the lettering, the fine lines and the feathers of those tiny sparrows. The more they looked, the more they realized this coin wasn't ordinary. Its craftsmanship rivaled even the finest proof coins of that decade. And as with any collectible, Rarity plus history equals value beyond imagination. For many older gentlemen, perhaps men like you watching right now, this coin isn't just about money. It's about legacy. It's about remembering a time when the world seemed steadier, when your first job might have paid you in coins just like it, when saving meant dropping pennies into a tin and watching them pile up, dreaming of what they might buy someday. Those little coins carried dreams. And this 1967 1 cent, carries a dream so large it's hard to believe. Collectors and historians now speak of it in reverent tones. They say that among all the South African cents ever struck, this one stands out like a diamond among pebbles. Only a handful remain in pristine condition. Some may never be found again. But one, a single piece verified by experts, changed everything. It sold at an international auction for a price that shocked even seasoned dealers. Imagine standing there, holding a coin once worth a single cent, and realizing it could buy you a mansion, a yacht, or change your family's future forever. That's what happened. Because this little bronze beauty, the 1967 1 cent English version from South Africa, reached a staggering value of $7 million. Yes, $7 million for something that once jingled in someone's pocket, forgotten and dismissed as small change.so. The next time you open that old box of coins from your father or grandfather, take a closer look. Wipe off the dust. Turn each one under the light. Because you never know, history might be sitting right there in your hands. It's not just about what it's worth, it's about what it represents. A lifetime of memories. A window into a world that once was. And if you've still got that spark of curiosity, that thrill of discovery that never fades no matter how many birthdays you've seen, then keep watching, keep exploring, and don't forget, even the smallest coin can hold the greatest story. Subscribe now, because next time, we'll uncover another hidden gem of history that could be waiting just a few feet from where you're sitting. But for today, remember this. A single cent from 1967, struck in South Africa, carrying the whispers of time, has become one of the most valuable coins ever known, worth a jaw-dropping $7 million. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because today we're diving into a coin that most people overlook, toss aside, or leave forgotten in old drawers. Yet it carries a story of power, history, and surprising value. If you're between 55 and 65 or beyond, this one will take you back. And if you're a serious collector, this might be the moment you start checking your old coin boxes again. Today we're talking about the 1979 2 cents coin featuring Nicholas Johannes Diedrichs from South Africa. At first glance, it looks like a simple bronze coin. Small, modest, almost insignificant. But don't let its size fool you. This coin represents a powerful era in South African history and carries weight far beyond its metal content. In 1979, South Africa was going through intense political and social change. The leader on this coin, Diedrichs, served as state president during a time of global pressure and internal transformation. When you hold this coin, you're holding a tangible piece of that era. The portrait stamped into its surface isn't just decoration. It symbolizes authority, governance, and a chapter of history that shaped a nation's path. Now, let's talk about the coin itself. The 1979 2 cents was struck in bronze, giving it that rich reddish-brown tone many of you will remember. Over the decades, that shine may have darkened into a deep chocolate color. Some pieces may show signs of circulation, tiny scratches, worn edges, softened details. But condition is everything in the coin world. A sharply preserved example, with strong detail in the portrait and clean lettering, can stand out dramatically from the average piece. The design is bold yet simple. On one side, the strong profile of Diedrichs faces outward, confident and firm. On the other side, the denomination and national symbols remind us of its everyday purpose. Back in 1979, 2 cents didn't buy much, but it was part of daily life, used in markets, shops, and small transactions. It passed through thousands of hands. Think about that for a moment. This coin may have been used to buy bread, pay for a newspaper, or complete a small purchase that meant something to someone at that time. For many men in the 55 to 65 age group, this coin may trigger memories. You may remember the feel of coins like this in your pocket, the sound they made when dropped onto a counter, the weight of change collected at the end of the day. Coins were more than currency. They were part of daily rhythm. And today, those small everyday objects are becoming historical artifacts. What makes the 1979 2 cents particularly interesting to collectors is not just its age, but its survival rate in high-grade condition. Many of these coins were heavily circulated. They weren't saved carefully because at the time, they were common. People didn't think twice about them. That's exactly why finding one today in exceptional condition is exciting. The fewer pristine examples that remain, the more attention serious collectors give them. There's also the emotional factor. Collecting coins from your own lifetime creates a personal connection. It's different from collecting ancient coins from centuries ago. When you collect something from 1979, you remember the music, the cars, the headlines, the conversations around the dinner table. That emotional link adds depth to the collecting experience. It becomes more than metal. It becomes memory. Now let's discuss rarity and demand. While millions of 2-cent coins were produced over the years, not all dates and mint variations are equally valued. Subtle differences can matter. Slight variations in strike quality, mint marks, or preservation level can dramatically influence value. Collectors pay attention to details that most people overlook. The sharpness of the hairlines in the portrait, the clarity of the lettering, the strength of the rim. Even the color consistency of the bronze can make a difference. And here's something many people don't realize. Small denomination coins often become harder to find in top condition because they were used more heavily. Larger denominations were sometimes stored away, but small change kept circulating until it wore down. That means high-grade 2-cent pieces from 1979 are not as easy to come by as you might expect. Imagine opening an old box of coins stored for decades. You sift through pieces you haven't seen in years. Then you spot it, the 1979 2 cents. You lift it up, examine it under light, and notice the details are crisp. The portrait stands out clearly. The surface shows minimal wear. That moment of discovery is what collectors live for. For men who appreciate history, leadership, and tangible assets, coins like this combine all three. They represent a past era, feature a national leader, and can hold surprising financial potential. It's a blend of nostalgia and opportunity. Another powerful aspect is legacy. Coins can be passed down. You can hand this coin to a grandson or family member and tell the story of 1979. Explain who Diedrichs was. Describe what life was like during that period. That storytelling transforms a small coin into a family heirloom. It becomes a bridge between generations. Let's also consider the investment angle. While not every 1979 2 cents coin will command a high price, exceptional specimens, especially those preserved in outstanding condition, can attract serious offers. The coin market rewards rarity, preservation, and historical importance. When all three align, the results can be surprising. Collectors today are increasingly looking back at modern-era coins with fresh eyes. Items once dismissed as ordinary are being reevaluated. The market evolves, demand shifts, and sometimes, a coin that sat unnoticed for decades suddenly becomes the center of attention. Before we begin, take 1 second right now and subscribe to this channel. If you are someone who understands history, money, and the quiet power of small objects, this channel is for you. Subscribing today means you will never miss stories that others overlook, but collectors never forget. Now let me ask you something. How many times in your life have you held a coin without truly looking at it? A coin passed from hand to hand, pocket to pocket, year after year, carrying far more than its face value. Today, I want to talk to you about one such coin. A small copper piece from South Africa, dated 1975, 2 cents. Almost nothing in size, almost nothing in weight, yet surrounded by whispers, rumors, and stories that refuse to die. For most people, the 2 cents 1975 coin is just spare change. Something forgotten in a drawer, tossed into a jar, or lost under a car seat decades ago. But men who have lived long enough know that value is not always loud. Sometimes, value is silent, hidden, waiting. South Africa in the 1970s was a nation in transition. Economically, politically, socially. Coins from that era were produced in massive numbers. Yet not all coins were truly the same. Machines were imperfect. Metals were inconsistent. Human hands were involved. And history teaches us that whenever systems are rushed, mistakes are made. Collectors know this well. The most valuable coins in the world are rarely valuable because of what they were meant to be. They are valuable because of what went wrong. The 1975 2-cent coin sits right in that dangerous and fascinating space. Produced during a time when minting processes were changing, metal compositions were under pressure, and quality control was not as refined as people like to believe today. On the surface, it looks ordinary. The same design, the same year, the same denomination. But some believe that not all 1975 2-cent coins were created equal. There are stories passed quietly among collectors. Stories of unusual weight, slight differences in metal tone, imperfections so subtle that only experienced eyes notice them. Alignment shifts that suggest something happened during production that was never officially recorded. And here is where the story becomes interesting. Older collectors will tell you that some coins were never meant to leave the mint. Test strikes, experimental metal blends, transitional errors, coins struck during equipment calibration or material shortages. These pieces often slipped out unnoticed, mixed in with regular circulation, and vanished into the world. Most were spent, lost, melted, forgotten. But what if one survived? What if a single 2-cent 1975 coin exists with a combination of features so rare, so undocumented, that it stands alone? Not just an error, but a perfect storm of anomalies. Wrong metal, wrong pressure, slight design deviation. Historical timing. In the coin world, rarity is king, but uniqueness is emperor. Men who have followed auctions for decades know that when something truly one-of-a-kind appears, traditional pricing disappears. There is no catalog value, no reference point. The price becomes whatever the wealthiest collector is willing to pay to own history itself. And this is why the 2-cent 1975 coin continues to spark debate. Some say the rumors are exaggerated. Others say they have seen things they cannot explain. A coin that does not behave like copper. A coin that weighs wrong but rings right. A coin that refuses to fit neatly into known categories. And let me be clear, not every 2-cent 1975 coin is special. Most are exactly what they appear to be. But history tells us that it only takes one exception to rewrite the story. Think about how many coins were produced that year. Millions. Think about how many still exist today. Far fewer. Think about how many have ever been properly examined under the right conditions. Almost none. Now imagine this. Somewhere, perhaps in an old tin box. A drawer untouched for 40 years. A collection inherited and never evaluated. A coin sitting quietly, never knowing the conversation surrounding it. Collectors at the highest level do not laugh at these possibilities. They respect them, because they have seen impossible coins surface before. Coins once dismissed as myths that later shattered records. The older you get, the more you understand that history is full of overlooked details. And money follows history, not the other way around. This is why some experts say the real danger is not that the coin is worthless. The danger is that its true value may never be recognized if it remains hidden. And now we come to the part everyone asks about. The number. The value. The question whispered but rarely said out loud. If a verified, one-of-kind 2-cent 1975 coin were confirmed, combining multiple undocumented mint anomalies, historical significance, and absolute uniqueness, some high-level collectors believe the price would not be measured in thousands or millions. They believe it could reach $20 million, not because of the coin itself, but because of what it represents. A mistake frozen in metal, a silent witness to a forgotten moment in history, and the simple truth that there can only ever be one. So before you dismiss that small coin you've had for years, remember this. The greatest discoveries are rarely announced. They are found by those patient enough to look twice. Before we dive in, Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what you're about to see could change the way you think about coins you've had in your drawer for decades. Stay with me. This is one story that every man over 55 should hear. Think back for a moment. Close your eyes and picture the world in the early 1970s. The air smelled different. The world seemed a little slower, a little more tangible. Men in sharp suits smoked their pipes or enjoyed a strong cup of coffee in the morning. Newspapers spread across their kitchen tables. South Africa, like many countries at that time, had its own rhythm, its own stories, and in the palm of your hand, a tiny coin quietly passed through the lives of millions, almost unnoticed. Today, that unassuming piece of metal, the 2-cent coin from 1972, is commanding attention in a way no one could have imagined. You probably remember coins like this. Small, coppery, sometimes worn, sometimes shiny, jingling in your pocket when you walked down the street or dropped in a tip jar at a cafe. For decades, they were just currency, a token of daily life. But what if I told you that one of these coins, specifically from 1972, could be worth something so extraordinary? It would make you reconsider everything you thought about the money you've been carrying or storing away. Let's take a closer look. This coin isn't just any coin. It carries history, culture, and craftsmanship that modern coins lack. The 2-cent coin from South Africa in 1972 featured a detailed design, small yet intricate, with every line and curve telling a story of a nation at a particular moment in time. Back then, coins were more than just a means of exchange. They were miniature works of art, designed to last, to endure the passage of generations, to quietly remind people of who they were and where they came from. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. For many of us, coins like this were everywhere. We didn't think twice about them. We might have spent them on a newspaper, a cup of coffee, or tucked them into jars at home. But numismatists, those collectors who devote their lives to the study and collection of coins, look at these everyday items very differently. They see rarity, craftsmanship, errors, and potential value that the rest of us overlook. You might be wondering, what makes this particular coin so special? After all, millions were minted. It's not gold, it's not silver, it's copper. Yet here's the twist. Over time, certain coins from 1972 developed characteristics that are incredibly rare today. Small minting errors, slight differences in weight, and subtle variations in design can transform a coin from ordinary to extraordinary. And the 2-cent coin from South Africa in that year happens to have one of those rare variations, a detail so subtle that casual observers completely miss it. But to collectors, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. And needles like this, as it turns out, are worth far more than anyone could have imagined. Let's take a moment to think about the era. This was a time when coins weren't mass-produced with robotic precision like today. Each coin bore the marks of the machinery, the hands, and the processes that created it. The very imperfections that most people ignored became the hallmark of its value decades later. For someone who appreciates history, craftsmanship, or the thrill of discovery, this coin is a time capsule, a link to a past that most people have forgotten. And for those who collect, it's a symbol of patience, foresight, and the quiet power of paying attention to the details. Here's something else to consider. Coins like this often carry sentimental value far beyond their material worth. Many of us have old jars, drawers, or boxes where coins from our youth have accumulated. Some of them we haven't touched in decades. What if that unassuming 2-cent coin, hidden among your old change, could suddenly become one of the most sought-after collectibles in the world? It's not just about money. It's about discovering something from your own past that has survived the test of time and now demands your attention. For men over 55, there's something uniquely satisfying about this. It's the thrill of uncovering a treasure that has been quietly waiting. The feeling that your experiences, your memories, and even your little habits might intersect with history in a way you never expected. Imagine holding a coin that thousands of others have handled, each leaving their mark, yet you now possess the one that stands above them all. That's the power of rarity, And that's the story behind the 1972 South African 2-cent coin. Collectors around the world are constantly searching for coins like this. Auctions, private collections, dealers, they all know that these coins are more than copper. They're a piece of history, a tangible connection to a time that many of us remember fondly. And the market for rare coins has grown exponentially. What was once a token in your pocket has become a symbol of prestige, of expertise, and in some cases, of incredible fortune. So now, after walking through history, nostalgia, craftsmanship, rarity, and the thrill of discovery, it's time for the moment you've been waiting for. The 1972 South African 2-cent coin, the very one that jingled in pockets decades ago, that might be sitting in a jar in your house right now, has a value that will astonish you. In today's market, this little copper coin has been known to sell for an astounding $6.5 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $6.5 million. That it's a reminder that sometimes the most ordinary things in life, the things we overlook every day, hold secrets of extraordinary value. That coin in your drawer, that memory tucked away, might just be more powerful than you ever imagined. And for men who have lived through decades, who remember the sights, sounds, and smells of the 1970s, it's a chance to reconnect with the past in a way that's tangible, exciting, and potentially life-changing. So, as you think about your own collection, your own memories, remember this. Treasures are everywhere, often hiding in plain sight. That coin, that memory, that small detail you thought didn't matter, sometimes that's where the real value lies. And who knows? The next coin you pick up might just be worth more than you ever dreamed. Before you go, make sure you subscribe and stay tuned, because we'll continue to uncover stories like this, stories that connect history, value, and the thrill of discovery. You never know what might be hiding in your own home, waiting for the right moment to reveal its worth. Before we dive into the story, take a moment to subscribe. If you enjoy history, hidden treasures, and the rare stories behind everyday objects, you're in the right place. Now, let's begin. There's something about coins that speaks to a man's soul. Not because they're made of metal, but because they carry stories. They're passed through hands that built nations, paid for bread and bullets, kept secrets, and survived revolutions. And every now and then, a coin comes along that doesn't just tell a story. It becomes one. Today, we're stepping back into the year 1970. The world was changing fast. The Cold War was in full swing. Technology was leaping forward. But in the southern tip of Africa, in a country wrapped in both beauty and conflict, something small was quietly minted into existence. A simple copper coin, no bigger than your thumbnail, bearing the value of 2 cents. Now, you might be thinking, what could possibly make a 2-cent piece special? That's what makes this story so fascinating. Because the value of a coin isn't always in its face. Sometimes, its worth lies in where it's been, who held it, and what it represents. The 1970 South African 2-cent coin was part of a transition era. South Africa had moved to the decimal system just a few years earlier, replacing the old British pounds and shillings. It was a time of national pride for some, unrest for others, but undeniably a moment that shaped the future. This coin came from that period, minted under the apartheid regime, during one of the most complex chapters in South African history. On the reverse, the coin features a majestic king protea, the national flower of South Africa. A bold choice. The protea has long symbolized resilience, transformation, and beauty under pressure. It's a fitting image for a coin minted in a land that was both troubled and magnificent. For many, this small copper piece was just spare change, slipping between pockets and counters. But for those who understand history, it's a marker of a nation's identity, politics, and pain. The obverse side bears the image of Jan van Riebeeck, the Dutch colonial administrator who founded Cape Town. For many years, his face was synonymous with the establishment of European power in southern Africa. Again, complex history, layered, uncomfortable, and real. This isn't just metal. It's memory. Think back to 1970. You might have been in school, just starting your first job, or maybe you were already raising a family. That same year, a man might have stood at a store counter in Cape Town or Johannesburg, this very coin in hand, buying milk or a newspaper. He never imagined that 5 decades later, someone would be holding that same coin with gloves, magnifying glass in hand, treating it like a lost artifact. Yet here we are, but it's not just about nostalgia. It's about rarity. Because not all coins are created equal. Most of these 2-cent coins were used and abused, tossed in drawers, forgotten in jars, worn thin by the hands of time. But a handful, just a precious few, survived untouched. Mint condition, untarnished, preserved like new. And those few, those lucky survivors, are the reason we're here today. Collectors around the world have started turning their eyes toward African coins. The global market, once obsessed with American and European currency, is expanding its appetite. And coins from South Africa, especially during the apartheid era, have become incredibly desirable, not just for what they are, but for what they represent, moments in time, frozen in copper and bronze. Now let's talk about demand. The older generation, the ones who lived through the 60s and 70s, they're beginning to pass down collections, stories, memories. And younger collectors, investors, even, are hunting for coins that are more than just old. They want coins that stir something. Coins with soul. Coins like the 1972 cents from South Africa. But here's where it gets really interesting. Not all coins are worth money. But when the right conditions align, rarity, condition, history, symbolism, value explodes. Auction houses have seen unexpected spikes in prices for this specific coin, especially versions with perfect surfaces, untouched luster, and sharp edges. Coins that spent their lives not in pockets, but in private drawers, safes, velvet boxes. Some of these pieces have been graded by professionals and sealed in tamper-proof cases. And those, my friend, have reached staggering numbers. Why? Because a coin like this isn't just a piece of copper anymore. It's a story you can hold in your hand. A piece of a past that's never coming back. A relic of a complicated, powerful, unforgettable time. For many older collectors, there's something deeply satisfying in holding one of these coins again. It's not about money. It's about connection. A reminder of youth, of places you've been, of a world that looked very different. And for newer collectors, it's a gateway into a deeper appreciation for history and legacy. What's it worth? That's the question everyone waits for. One of these coins, a 1972 cents from South Africa, in pristine condition, graded and sealed, recently turned heads at an auction. Because of its condition, rarity, and growing international demand, it reached a price no one saw coming. $1 million. Yes, you heard that right. Not every coin will fetch that. Most won't. But that number represents something powerful. The value we place on memory, on history, on physical pieces of a time long gone. It's not about the copper. It's about what it means that so the next time you see an old coin, don't toss it aside. Hold it. Look at it. Listen to what it's trying to say. You never know. You just might be holding something priceless.